All right. As we know, there's a new look to the Atlanta Hawks already. Now, the Atlanta Hawks, in my opinion, are built for playoff basketball. For years, the Atlanta Hawks have tried to win with offense. They tried to outscore teams. They tried to play faster. They relied on star power. But when the playoffs arrived, everything tended to fall apart. But this offseason, Atlanta completely changed its philosophy. First, Trae Young, get out of here. They added veterans like CJ McCollum. They brought in Jonathan Kuminga, added Buddy Hield, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Aaron Wiggins, and Devin Carter. And now they've made arguably the biggest move yet, trading for one of the NBA's premier perimeter defenders in Lu Dort. So this isn't just another offseason trade. This move completely changes who the Atlanta Hawks are. Today, we're breaking down exactly how Lu Dort fits, how dangerous this roster has become, and where Atlanta now ranks in the Eastern Conference. So, Atlanta has finally found an identity. One of the biggest problems Atlanta has had over the last decade wasn't that it wasn't talent. It was identity. Some nights they wanted to play fast. Other nights they wanted to shoot threes. Sometimes they tried switching everything defensively. Other nights they packed the paint. There was never a consistent formula, but now there is. They got the defense. They got the length, the physicality. Look at the core. CJ McCollum brings veteran leadership and late game shot creation. Dyson Daniels has already established himself as one of the league's elite perimeter defenders. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is another high-level defensive wing who could also knock down open shots. Jalen Johnson has developed into one of the Eastern Conference's most versatile forwards. Jonathan Kuminga, if he stays, gives them downhill athleticism and transition scoring. Onyeka Okongwu protects the rim. And now you add Lu Dort. Suddenly, Atlanta isn't trying to win shootouts anymore. They're trying to make every game ugly. And that's exactly how playoff basketball is won. Why Lu Dort is the perfect fit. What people misunderstand about Lu Dort is that he is not supposed to score 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 points a game. That's not why teams want him. His value begins before the opening tip. Every coach knows exactly who's guarding the opposing superstar. It is one Lu Dort. And in this Eastern Conference, you need that guy, whether it's Jason Tatum, Banchero, Tyrese Halliburton is coming back, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. Dort accepts those assignments every single night. Now think about Atlanta's defensive rotation. You got Dyson Daniels, Lu Dort, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu. That's 5 players capable of switching across multiple positions. Very few teams in basketball can match that level of versatility. Now, if I am Quin Snyder, this is my playoff starting 5. As the team is constructed, my playoff starting 5, point guard Dyson Daniels. Instead of asking him to score 20, let him control the tempo, push the pace, pressure opposing guards, create the turnovers. My shooting guard is CJ McCollum. He is now the primary shot creator. Late clock offense runs through one CJ McCollum. His veteran decision making becomes incredibly valuable. My 3, Lu Dort. This is where the trade changes everything. Forget his scoring. Every possession begins with defense. He immediately takes the toughest assignment. At my 4, Jalen Johnson. He could quietly become Atlanta's best player. He's the connector, transition offense, secondary playmaking, rebounding, switchability. Everything flows to him. Onyeka Okongwu at my 5, the perfect modern center. Mobile, athletic, excellent rim protector, can defend in space. Now imagine that defensive lineup in a 7-game series. Imagine that lineup against a Knicks team, against a Detroit. All right? That becomes incredibly difficult to score against. And now the bench might be just as important because this is where Atlanta separates themselves. Remember, this is as of today. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jonathan Kuminga, Buddy Hield, Corey Kispert, Aaron Wiggins, Devin Carter. That is serious depth. You need shooting? Buddy Hield. You need more defense? Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You need athleticism? Jonathan Kuminga. You need another physical wing? Aaron Wiggins. Atlanta can adjust based on every matchup. That flexibility is what wins playoff series. But the biggest concern, every contender has weaknesses, right? Atlanta's biggest question remains offensive creation. CJ McCollum can still create. Jalen Johnson continues to improve as a playmaker. Kuminga attacks downhill. But when defenses completely lock in during playoff basketball, who consistently creates easy offense? That's the biggest question. Lu Dort doesn't solve that. He solves the defense. Atlanta is betting that elite defense can compensate for not having multiple superstar scorers. But where do they rank in the East? Let's compare them. Against Cleveland, Atlanta has enough defenders to throw multiple looks at their backcourt. At New York, let's not forget, Atlanta is the only team that took the New York Knicks to a 7-game series. They took them to 7 games. The same Knicks team that swept the San Antonio Spurs. I'm sorry, not swept. That beat the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games. Atlanta is the only team that took them to 7 games. And they just added Lu Dort. Against New York, they suddenly have wing defenders capable of making life difficult. Against Orlando, they can match size and physicality. Against Detroit, their experience becomes a huge advantage. And we see how we saw this past postseason the secret to beating Detroit, right? Load up, and there's nobody outside of Kid that can do anything. Against Boston, this is fascinating, right? Because Boston still has, even after Jaylen Brown, has elite shot creation. But Atlanta now has arguably the personnel to make every possession difficult, right? So that's something very few Eastern Conference teams can even say. I'm not saying Atlanta is the favorite because they're not, but I am saying they're no longer a team that anyone wants to see in the first round. You know how teams win or lose certain games based on who they want their playoff matchup to be? There's nobody saying, let's lose this game or win this game so we get to play Atlanta. There's nobody saying that. Now, what their ceiling is, if everything clicks, Jalen Johnson becomes an All-NBA caliber player. Dyson Daniels continues his defensive rise. CJ McCollum provides steady veteran scoring. Kuminga takes another leap. Okongwu anchors the paint. Lu Dort gives you All-NBA defense level impact every night, right? That's a team capable of winning 45, 50 plus games and challenging for a top 4 seed in the East easily. The ceiling isn't built around one superstar. It's built around having almost no defensive weak links. The Hawks didn't make this trade because they needed more talent. They made it because they needed a clearer identity. For years, Atlanta tried to win with offense. Now they're trying to win with toughness, physicality, versatility. Lu Dort embodies all 3. Will this roster be the most talented in the East? Probably not. But talent alone doesn't win playoff series, as we know. Execution wins series. Defense wins series. Discipline wins series. And after this trade, Atlanta may have quietly become one of the toughest outs in the Eastern Conference. The Hawks aren't trying to be flashy anymore. They're trying to be the team nobody wants to play. And with Lu Dort leading one of the league's deepest defensive rotations, they may have finally found a formula that gives them a chance to make a real run through the East. So watch out, Detroit. Watch out, the Knicks. Watch out, the Raptors. Watch out, the Pacers. Watch out, Eastern Conference.